But now they're the ones posturing themselves as regional experts and providing the advice. And these are the people saying that the Iranian people want to be overthrown, that they hate the regime, that I mean, so we got Delta Force knuckle dragging losers, guys who haven't won a war yet, big L stapled on their heads. They probably got their ass kicked in Afghanistan. They came over and got their ass kicked in southern Iraq. And then they went home and started thinking about their relevance to the world. So they started selling themselves as regional, a subject matter expert is a term they like to use. And they just are ignorant. If they've been in Iran, it's because they landed there one night to insert somebody or extract somebody or to plant a device or to do something. But they haven't wandered the streets of Tehran interacting with the Iranian people, talking about to them. They haven't gone to Kashan. They haven't gone to any of the places that were blowing up. They didn't go to Minab. They certainly didn't meet with the families of the school children that were slaughtered by the bombs. These people know nothing about Iran. Nothing about Iran. And yet they're the ones saying, no, all we have to do is kill Ali Khamenei and the system comes down. But had they talked to real experts, they would have known that killing Ali Khamenei will only strengthen the system, that it will backfire. And that's exactly what happened. We did succeed in getting, President Trump, congratulations. Good job, man. Because you did what you wanted to do. You wanted the Iranian people to rise up and take matters into their own hands. And they have. They've risen up. And they said, we are behind the government. We are supporting the martyr, Ali Khamenei. We are supporting the new supreme leader, Ali Khamenei's son, Mujab, I think his name is. I could be mispronouncing that, but that's what I do for a living. So apologies. But the point is, we are so far removed from reality. We don't respect anything. We treat the Iranians as if they're a bunch of camel jockey, ragheads, sand niggers, whatever other derogatory term we can use and have used in the past to describe the people of the Middle East, instead of one of the most cultured, refined, dignified people the world has ever seen, with a history that goes back thousands of years. And the Iranian people, even if you're an Islamist supporting the Islamic Republic, you embrace that history, you respect your culture, and you want these people to sell out this legacy that they have. That's just not going to happen. But we're ignorant of this. And now, not only are we blowing up, we're blowing up history. I've heard stories. I just hope it's not true, but I've heard stories about blowing up, in Tehran, we're blowing up some of the old Qajar. And again, I might be mispronouncing that. That might be called pronounced differently, but what I'm talking about.
It's good. It's good. Your pronunciation is good.
I'm safe. There was a time when I was trying to pronounce Bab el-Mandeb, and I was just fumbling it left and right 20 times. And somebody did this really cool meme. Because it showed me, the Baba, and they're like, oh, the Baba, and finally I go, the Baba Mandeb, and there's a whole group of, yay. So I try, I really do. But the, Qajar dynasty, the art, the history, the culture there. When I went to Iran, I was guided by a Revolutionary Guard escort, but he took me to these places, and he was in awe of the beauty. They revere their history, and I think we've blown it up. And I think we're blowing up places in Isfahan, we're blowing up places in Shiraz, we're blowing up places in Kashan. What we're doing to Iran is cultural genocide, but we don't care because we have no comprehension of who the Iranians are and appreciation of what they are. We don't know what their history is. And all we're doing is aligning ourselves with the nation Israel, which is fully capable of committing genocide against a nation of 90 million, as they were with committing genocide against a population of 3 million in Gaza.
Yeah. Scott, when Pete Hegseth is giving us a timeline, of the war, and he's talking about 4 days, then 4 weeks, and right now, I don't know how long does it take. It reminds me, I don't know if you saw the video comparing Rumsfeld to Pete Hegseth today. The same, it seems that they're talking about the same sort of, idea when it comes to war. It doesn't seem that Pete Hegseth, because he was part of he said that he was in the Middle East. He know what was the war, but he doesn't remember what was the mindset that brought him to the Middle East, to that war, which was simply the Bush, presidency, that the people around President Bush, that they thought that they could, wrap it up in a short period of time, which didn't happen. Here is comparing the two, Rumsfeld to Pete Hegseth.
I can't tell you if the use of force in Iraq today would last 5 days or 5 weeks or 5 months, but it certainly isn't going to last any longer than that.
President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back.
Yeah. How someone who was in this war in Iraq, in Afghanistan, I don't know where he was, but he doesn't understand the reality of what's going on, and he doesn't see the threat of a long war. I think that is really happening. It's going to be a long war. It's not going to be a short, but it doesn't seem that is totally perceived by the Trump administration.
I'm just quick going through Hegseth's resume. It's not very impressive. He enlisted. He was commissioned in the military. He did tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. When I look at it, he has the combat infantryman's badge, but when I look at his Bronze Star, it's a slick star, which means that it wasn't awarded for heroism. So this is a man who, at the time they were just handing out awards left and right for anybody deployed. This is a man who's not seen hard combat. He doesn't know what hard combat is. And this is a man who never rose to any, significant position of authority. He hasn't commanded troops in combat at the battalion level or any level above that. So we need to be careful when Pete Hegseth starts talking about, I've been there, I've done that. We also need to judge Pete Hegseth on his own words. If you recall, when he addressed 800 American generals and admirals in Quantico in October of 2025, I think, last year, he defined what he considered to be the epitome of the military standard, and basically said it's 1993, an 03 captain, or an E6 staff sergeant. Well, guess what, Pete? Guess who was a captain in 1993? Me. I'm the epitome. I'm that which you have never been and you will never be. I'm the guy that actually trained during the height of the Cold War when the American military truly was the finest military in the world. I am somebody who has been schooled in the proper ethos of military service, one that is founded in the Constitution and premised on absolute professionalism in everything we do. This is pre-politicization, pre-woke, pre-DEI, pre-anything. This is when men were really men. And the staff sergeants I dealt with were the same way. I am everything you will never be, Pete. I'm a professional. You're a frickin' amateur, purely an amateur. And what you are is a bitter amateur. You're somebody who wishes you were something you'll never be, and therefore you're posturing to be that instead of being the Secretary of Defense. So Pete Hegseth is just a walking, talking joke of a human being. He's not qualified for the position he's in. And again, it's just time for us to be honest. We just have to start calling these things out. We can't pretend that Pete Hegseth is qualified to be doing what he's doing. Because as long as we pretend that, then it's okay for him to sit there and show this kind of vacillation. My God, do you have a war plan or not, Pete? Simple question, yes or no? A war plan or not? Because you seem to be making it up every single day of the week. You wake up tomorrow and things have changed, and now you're giving a press conference where you're changing the parameters. If you were going to put troops on the ground, you should have thought about that 9 months ago, and they should be moving in place as we speak, instead of now speaking about the possibility. And what president doesn't know what they're doing? Cheney was speaking in 2002, but you forget that Cheney was the Secretary of Defense during Desert Storm, Desert Shield. He knows what it means to move troops. We also forget that before Dick Cheney became overly politicized as Secretary of Defense, he put the brakes on and advanced to Baghdad at the end of the Gulf War. After we had crushed the Iraqi army on the field of battle, there were people who were saying we should go ahead and finish it off, go up to Baghdad. And Cheney said no. He said, because if we break it, we own it. If we occupy it, we gotta take responsibility for it. We're not ready to do that. We don't have a plan for that. Dick Cheney understood you have to have a plan that's been thought out, advised by experts. Now, he forgot everything before we went to war in Iraq, and you see the results. We went to war in Iraq on a plan that was half-assed. We didn't have a plan for success, and we didn't know what we were doing. We ended up occupying the country with a czar. What was the guy's name? Paul. I can't remember his name now. But the guy who ran the country, and he basically demobilized the Iraqi army and went into de-Baathification and basically eliminated the one thing that was holding Iraq together. And then Iraq devolves into chaos and anarchy, sectarian warfare, and all that stuff. We're stuck in the middle, and the rest is history. We broke it. We got driven out. I don't know what Hegseth thinks he's doing, because we went to war on a half-assed plan that was there to appease greater Israel. Israel is laughing all the way to the bank. They don't care about Americans. They don't care that we're bankrupting ourselves. They don't care about anything other than the fulfillment of their plan of greater Israel. And so they're laughing as we break our backs here. And we are breaking our backs. And you can see it in the panic in Hegseth's mind. I mean, when you take joy out of sinking a ship that had gone to India to participate in a festival, a shipping festival. So it had been paraded on the shores, and now it's off the coast of Sri Lanka, not an active combatant, heading home or heading to wherever they're going to head. And we send a submarine. We're not in a state of war. What legal authority did we have to sink that ship? Did Congress authorize that? We had legal authority, apparently, according to Congress, to preempt the Iranian missile attack against us. But this ship is out there, and we sunk it. The most cowardly act possible. We didn't give it an opportunity. The submarine didn't rise up and say surrender or something like that, send a signal. That ship was sailing, not in combat mode, and we sunk it. And Pete Hegseth is bragging as if this is some sort of example of American martial supremacy. It's something we're supposed to be proud of. No, Pete, we're ashamed of you, and we're ashamed of that action. It's something that the ship's commander should never have done. That submarine commander should never have sunk that ship. That ship posed no threat to anybody. And why did we sink it? Because we can. And don't tell me we're at war, because Congress refuses to declare war. Congress called this a defensive action. I mean, that's what Mike Johnson was saying. It's defensive. Therefore, it's not really a conflict. We don't even get involved. It's purely defensive. Was that a defensive action to send a submarine off the coast of Sri Lanka to sink a ship? Sounded pretty offensive to me. And this is what we're doing on everything. I mean, this is an incompetent campaign that was all premised around the notion of regime collapse. Now that that's failed, now they don't know what they're fighting for. They're just blowing up buildings. And that's all they're doing is blowing up buildings. If you think there's anything inside the buildings being bombed, you're dumber than dirt. Because anything of value has been long since evacuated and hidden in any one of hundreds of hide sites the Iranians have been preparing since 2005. Go back to the history of Firdos, the underground cavern that they put this enrichment capability in wasn't built for Firdos. It was built to hide stuff. It's one of a number of hide sites in the region that were constructed so you can empty empty factories of the high value production equipment, so that when nations like the United States come in and drop bombs on the buildings, all they do is blow up concrete blocks, in other structures. But the high value stuff has been moved. So it's all gone. It's all moved. We're just blowing up empty buildings. We're killing a lot of civilians in the process, but we're not achieving much of anything. The Iranians have been watching the way the United States fights, and I would encourage anybody who takes anything that Pete Hegseth or any American military person at face value today, don't. The Iranians are experts at being Iranians. And what I mean by that is they know their game plan. They've been watching the United States fight since the Gulf War. They understand how the United States and Israel goes about doing various operations. The Iranians are very expert in watching the Israelis operate, because the Iranians have been the number one sponsor of Hezbollah, and there's been Iranian advisors working hand in glove with Hezbollah. So they know everything about how Israel conducts ground operations, air operations, the whole thing. So preparing for this campaign, do you think for a second the Iranians might have said, how do we get the Americans and the Israelis to expend the bulk of their resources chasing ghosts? Or did they say, we're going to just go out there and do this and leave ourselves at the total mercy of the Americans and the Israelis who are going to be flying in looking for any indicator and falling in on that, and we're going to sacrifice everything just so we can fire some missiles? They have us chasing ghosts. When I read the Israelis, they're like, we got them down to 12 launchers. I'm like, really? Wow, you guys are pretty damn good. 12 launchers. Wait, time out. Simple Marine here. Not very good at math, but didn't the Iranians launch more than 12 missiles at Israel the other day? If they only have 12 launchers, and at the same time, didn't they launch missiles against the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait? And how does that work, Israel? I mean, you guys are the smartest people on the planet. You are God's chosen, after all. So maybe you have magical God-driven math. But they just don't know what they're talking about. I remind people that when the Gulf War started, we gave Iraq accurately a credit for 19 mobile launchers. By a week and a half into the war, we destroyed 64. Now you might ask yourself, how does that happen? How do you turn 19 into 64? And at the same time, the Iraqis were launching high volumes of missiles at Israel and Saudi Arabia. So it meant we were killing things that weren't launchers. And that was the problem. We were out there blowing everything up because we were so driven on accomplishing something. There was so much political pressure. And I tell you right now, we're blowing up things. We may be getting a launcher here and there. I mean, we are putting considerable resources into this effort. But if you think for a second, the Iranians haven't thought this thing through, that there aren't decoys. Ask yourself how you could possibly be triggered into sending your combat air patrol over something. There's visual cues. So the Iranians will have fixed cues. They'll go out and set up a launcher and raise it. Now, if I were a military analyst and I took a look at the imagery stamp and it said that this picture was taken 45 minutes ago, I'd say don't bother striking, because the Iranians will be done 5 to 7 minutes after launch. They're moved. So unless we can get an asset on target within 5 to 7 minutes of detection, don't even bother. But no, we send them in there, we blow it up, we show the image, we say, got one. No, you didn't. You got something the Iranians wanted you to get. And they put it into place so that those resources you had were physically here. Now, plot out the timing of the other launches and the locations. You're going to see that the Iranians are creating impetus over here to divert resources to create a window of vulnerability here, because now we don't have resources to strike and the missiles get launched. Is there a mistake made? What happens if they pull a missile launcher out and they raise the launcher and there's a leak and the missile gets stuck in the up position? Well, that missile's screwed. It's going to be left there. The guys are going to be working to try and get it down, and we're going to come in, we're going to blow it up. We're going to show that film and say, we got one. Yes, we got one there. Congratulations. But we didn't get it because we're smarter than the Iranians. We got it because a mistake took place. That's just the way it is. There's also, I guess the word I'm going to SIGINT cues, communications cues. So the Iranians are going to sit there and they're going to flood the airwaves with communications because they're experts at this, and they're going to give away signals. They're going to be saying things like, send convoy X. They'll be using code words. Send convoy X over here. Generate movement traffic, and they'll have people out there moving, and we'll go out there, track it, and they're luring us away from the place that they're launching. And eventually we'll catch on to this and we'll start not responding. But the Iranians have a plan. They have a plan they've been thinking out for some time now, 20 years to be precise. And we don't have a plan. Our plan was to begin bombing, kill Khamenei, and within 4 days have people in the streets demanding, we get President Trump, we've done what we can. It's up to you. Well, the people spoke. They're supporting the martyr Ali Khamenei. They're supporting the new supreme leader. They're supporting the government of Iran. So now we don't have a plan. And now the ramifications of not having a plan are playing out as we run out of missiles, we run out of bombs, we run out of targets. And this is the real danger, because as we run out of targets, we're going to start to look for new targets. And we have no idea what we're looking at. So we're going to start blowing things up. This is where we're going to blow up hospitals. This is where we're going to blow up schools. This is where we're going to blow up bomb shelters. And this is just the reality of war. It's going to get horrible. And the Israelis don't care. The Israelis will say, rather than even, with America, it's just making a mistake. With the Israelis, they're going to basically apply the Dahiwa doctrine, the southern suburb of Beirut. Level it. Send a signal. Level it. And right now, they are going neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood in Tehran and leveling it, dropping it. And they're going to drop all of Tehran. By the time this is done, Tehran is going to look like Gaza. But what did you expect? You're going to war against a genocidal nation. I mean, Israel is a sick genocidal nation, and they only understand how to commit genocide. And so that's what they're doing right now with the nation of Iran.
Scott, one of the radars that yesterday was hit was this, early, they're calling it was $1.1 billion in Qatar. It's a ballistic missile early warning radar. It was in Qatar. Are they using that radar to, it's in combination with the defense systems in Israel? And how is that going to influence the whole concept? Because they have to send the signal to the air defense system. Is that the case? And how big is that for the whole concept of defending Israel?
My understanding is that this radar position where it was to provide early warning, early detection of Iranian ballistic missile launches. So you get the cues, boom, and now because you can't keep a system operating 24/7, so you have to have things stood down. So when you get indicator of launch, now you send the signal. You're getting, you're going to get the speed, you're going to get the azimuth. You're able to predict direction, and even in some cases predict point of impact with this data alone. And then you send that data in, and now we start to cue other detection capabilities to get radars up, looking, scanning, overlapping, getting defenses unlocked, up, looking, so that we can create a layered approach to defend against that attack. If you eliminate that, you don't have that early warning. So now the Iranians get a leg up because they're going to fire, and it's going to have to wait to get picked up by satellite systems. You may not get the same predictive outcome. And so now you're going to have to scan even more. And now by scanning even more, you understand that you're, first of all, you're wasting resources, but you're also giving away information because, again, I don't know how the Iranians do business. If I were doing business, I'd be flying drones equipped to collect signals intelligence. And as I launch my missiles, my drones are out there scanning. And we're looking for radar activation. We're going to assess the signals, look at signal strength, look at the time it's operating, look at the direction that radars are. Then we're going to be monitoring, how the missile interceptors work. At what point in time do you engage THAAD? At what point in time do you engage David's sling, arrow? And all that data goes in. And let's say they get it. Let's say this missile's launched and boom, now the Iranians are going to go, okay, what was the vulnerability there? How did this happen? How do we prevent this from happening next time? What do we need to do to prevent these systems from operating at optimum capability? And they'll make that adjustment, flood the system, provide distraction. The next missile comes in and hits the target on the ground. This is what missile war is. And the Iranians are masters of it. And by blinding the coalition, by destroying this radar, it significantly enhances the ability of Iran to ensure that their missiles hit the targets that they intend to hit.
Yeah. Scott, before wrapping up, many people are curious about India in the whole calculation. Was that a big deal for, to see Modi going to Israel, showing, how close he is to Netanyahu and Israel, or he's a political figure. He's doing whatever he feels is better for India for the time being. And how do you see the whole concept? Because India is part of BRICS, and we know that how important India is. And when you see Modi doing this, and is that significant for the whole concept of the region and BRICS?
Well, it's very significant. Understand that when was it? September of 2023. There was the G20 meeting, I think, in India, New Delhi. And Joe Biden was president at the time, and he came out and he stood side by side to Modi, and he announced the India, Middle East, European economic corridor. Basically, India was the idea was that goods made in India get put on a container ship that gets sent to the United Arab Emirates, offloaded, loaded on a train that transits the United Arab Emirates, transits Saudi Arabia, transits Jordan, and goes into Israel to the port of Haifa, gets loaded on a container ship, taken across the Mediterranean, offloads in Greece at a port there, and then is brought into Europe. So here you have this corridor. Now, the key aspect here is that these states are working with Israel. Israel's part of the overall equation. and India was a leading advocate for this. The irony was, and nobody really picked up on it at the time, that the Haifa port and the port in Greece were built with Chinese Belts and Roads money, and most of the rail lines that were considered to be used are rail lines built with Chinese money. So the India, Middle East, and European Economic Corridor was supposed to be a competitor with China's Belt and Roads, but it was really just falling in on it. I mean, that's, again, showing the stupidity of people. But India has always been a promoter of Greater Israel. And so it doesn't surprise me that Modi went to India. And the timing is also, I think Modi understood what was about to happen. And he was there to put India's marker on the table. India, when the Strait of Hormuz is shut, India is going to pay a very heavy price. They get a significant amount of their energy through the Strait of Hormuz. And so I think this was a political statement by Modi about which side he's on, and he's advocating for, keeping the strait open and things of that nature. We'll see. But no, India is not a very reliable member of BRICS. India has some bilateral relations with Russia. India has a strained relationship with China. But India, more than anything, has shown itself to be an absolute tool of the United States, and by extension, a tool of Greater Israel.
Yeah. Thank you so much.